But in the winter, this is pretty stark garden because there are lots and lots and lots of what we call ephemerals come out. Those are the plants that only come out for a little while and then they disappear again. Hence the name ephemeral. So right now, all the wild violets are out, the wild strawberries. We're seeing the coreopsis, and the dogwood's in full bloom. My azalea's in bloom. The redbud just finished, and the witch hazel was about a month ago. So we're in constant change in this yard. And what's great about that is that all of those different plants are providing food, shelter, and nectar for the pollinators and for the birds. And that's what I'm doing.
What a great opportunity to have this as a stop for the garden tour, though, because just the education, you like to educate people.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I just do a native garden and do it and I just hold this myself, I don't do any good with this. We need to spread the word, and people are interested. It's just hard to get started and figure out how to do this. So I'll be doing a talk that afternoon. I think it's at 2, but you can check the Historic Garden Week schedule. And I'll be talking about how to get started and what the levels of involvement. But the first thing, plant a tree. Plant a native tree, because like an oak tree supports over 550 species, including butterflies, birds, insects, and mammals. So one oak tree is like a banquet for everybody. Mm-hmm. But there's other trees, redbuds, dogwoods. If you could only have a small tree, those are great ones. So that's the start of it, and then you go from trees to shrubs, and then you start with adding the next layer and the next layer. There's about 5 layers in your garden, and so you start out with your hardscape and figuring out how are you going to use your garden, where are the rooms, where are the, are you going to have paths, are you going to have a water feature, where are people going to rest, where is it going to be interesting for people. Then you add your trees, then you add your shrubs, then you add your grasses and your perennials, and then you're going to be adding all those extra little things that you want to put in there, your ferns, your forbs, and really start building your garden. But if you know how to start there, then you can get an idea of what it takes to build a garden. Another piece of the garden is you have to have evergreens. Those are also the bones of the garden. If you don't have those, the garden looks empty, especially in the winter. So you've got, and that's also the place for birds to go and hide from predators and for them to nest. So those are the things that you do. It's tough to find native evergreens that are small. So I do have a few exotics in my yard, but I keep replacing them. Every time I turn around, I want to replace one. Next fall, I'm going to replace a couple of exotics that I have here. Burford hollies, they're a nice holly, but I'm going to be putting in just an Ilex glabra, which is an American holly, and we'll just have that. That's what we're going to have.
What's the best place to find out natives, to make sure you do have natives?
Well, the Native Plant Society is fabulous. There's a Virginia Native Plant Society. They have a Facebook page. If you have questions, you'll get 125 people answer you. So there's all kinds of information. If you follow that page for a month, you're going to be very knowledgeable. In May, I'm going to open up the garden again for a weekend and do it again in June. So people can see how the garden changes. Because with natives, you don't have this big explosion of color like you do with annuals. But with natives, you have the interest. So right now, my azaleas, my dogwood, my little native irises are up. My native violets are up. They're feeding the birds and the bees. And then right after that, my viburnums are starting to come up, the coreopsis, and the ferns. So there's all kinds of cool things.
There really is never a dull moment in your backyard.
No, it's changing, and I deliberately did that. So the tree behind me right here, this is a Kentucky yellowwood, and that has what we call 3-season color. So right now, it's got this beautiful gray mottled bark.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting in the winter. Then about mid-May, it gets these beautiful little droops that look like lily of the valley of white flowers all over it. And then in the fall, it's bright yellow, and it's a beautiful bright yellow for about a month. So I get color out of this tree more than just the year. This tree over here is a river birch, it doesn't look like much, but it's got this wonderful exfoliating bark. But what's really cool right now is the birds will come in and they'll peck at the tree, and that'll release a lot of the fluid in the tree, the phloem, and that's got a little sweetness to it, and the birds will drink it. So the river birch has got a lot of, because it's really a big, as it says, river birch, it really pulls up a lot of moisture, and where that tree is, it's really pulling a lot of moisture. And so that's fun just to watch that tree do that. Once you start watching the wildlife, then you start really appreciating what's happening.
Yeah.
On the red buds in late February, I was watching the birds finish off the pea pods off of the red bud out front. So they were still getting nutrients out of that even late February, March. Just this morning I was watching a beautiful red cardinal start working on the maple. So the buds on the maple have a lot of nutrients for the birds, and they were going for that.
As we just stand here and I see these birds coming in and out, it's so true. If you want to have birds, if you want to have wildlife to watch, if you provide them nutrition and nutrients and things like that, they're going to come.
Right. Water is a critical feature for all yards, and we have water year round. We put a heater in the bird bath.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can put out a feeder, but you're going to get, the sparrows and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, I've got doves right over here. I just saw 4 cardinals fly through. The bluebird was here. There's a chickadee right now. I can hear, the song sparrows. It's just a constant, and there's a female cardinal coming in now. So yeah, it's constant. And that's for fun with wildlife, I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, but also I can walk over, and that one shrub that's in bloom right now, there's thousands of bees on it. Those bees were on the red bud last week. They were just covered. And there were wasps, and there were bees, and there were all kinds of cool things.
Yeah, just staying here talking to you, I've already seen 2 cardinals. So.
I know, it's fun.
It is.
It is.